Someone told Niki, you both can have a career, but at some point, when one of you reaches C-level or that kind of level of responsibility, one of you is going to have to take a backseat. One of you is going to have to step down. And it wasn't like one of you is going to have to be at home and work in the house, but it was both of you can't have these type of careers.
Yeah.
And I think at the time, I was probably a little bit naive, but I'm like, screw that. And I think that has actually driven both of us. We're not competitive with each other, but there is a little bit of that spirit within us where we're always trying to improve and we push each other along. You can't both be looking for a new CMO gig at the same time. And then once you join a new company, it's very intense at the start until you get your grounding, your footing in that company. And what Niki and I think, have done a pretty good job with is, as one of us has been like, I need to look for something new. It's the right time. The other one has said, okay, then I'm not going to look, or I'm going to take more of that backseat. We've never had to have the conversation where one of us has said, look, we just can't do this. The kids are amazingly flexible and we've relied on friends and family, but we've never had to say one of us has to take a step down. We've kind of managed it through the last 10 or 15 years and at least had the right conversations about what I need to focus on. And that goes all the way down to calendars, planning the calendar. There's a lot more planning ahead you have to do, but it's not perfect. But for the most part, I think we've done okay.
What it does is your kids become independent and they've had to learn to step up, and you take your same discipline that you do in coaching people for success at work and coaching your kids for success at home. So luckily, neither one of us have had to really say, I can't become a chief marketing officer because I have to do X, and we make it work.
Yep.
We're in tech marketing. It's very male orientated. And I've always been a massive advocate. There's a pressure on female leaders. Okay, well, if you have kids, you're the one that should be at home. And there's like this, I don't know if it's pressure or expectations, and I've never bought into that. If Niki had wanted to stay at home, great. But she didn't. And I feel like my job, not just as a partner, but as a marketing leader who recognizes talent, like, you should go for it. You should have as much opportunity and you should go for it.
Niki, Dayle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great to be here.
I'm very excited since it is a new format, never before done in mission history. And I'm just, very grateful that the two of you said yes to this, and we're about to see where it goes.
Yeah, let's hope we can actually get on better than we do if we're trying to decide what the kids are going to do this weekend and who's going to drive them here, there, and everywhere. We'll see how it goes.
No, it's more about you wanting to golf and you saying, Niki, you need to do X, Y, and Z.
Well, these things we're definitely going to get into. I have a lot of questions later on the interview about how the two of you navigate both being C-levels and all that, because I think it's very fascinating. But first, I want to start with something fun. Niki, if you were to describe Dayle as a CMO in 3 words, what would you say?
Compassionate. What are you? Growth, and very patient.
Oh, that's good.
Because you have to be patient to be able to grow a company from like 1 million to 100 million, where she's done in the past. So yeah, a lot of patience. And he's a Libra, so he's the scale. So
he's a Libra. Yes, first time in marketing history that someone is pulling out that.
Pulling out the horoscope. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here for it. If anyone's listened to my content, they know I'm definitely here for that.
That's funny.
Okay, Dayle, you're up.
I would say thoughtful, passionate. We're talking about work, right? Yeah, okay.
I mean, whatever you want, I guess.
But it actually applies to both. I would say thoughtful, passionate, and I think driven. I mean, just in general. I mean, I think one of the things that attracted me to Niki when we worked together originally was just how she's like, we got to get shit done. We got to go. She's and I see it. I see it in when she's had all the positions that she's had. She's inspirational for that, actually.
Oh, so good. Look, I have like couples therapy going on Marketing Trends, and I'm here for it.
I have a couch. over there. I can go lie down.
Let's just migrate. We'll go over to your couch.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Well, I'm excited because we're definitely probably going to see threads of this throughout the interview and see how, Dayle shows up and Niki shows up. But first, I want to go back. I mean, you just mentioned when you all met at Cisco. So I want to go back down memory lane and hear more about where you both were, and then what did this meeting look like?
Okay, well, I'll start on this one, and then Niki, you can chime in.
Sounds
We were both at Cisco Systems at the time, and I was in Europe. So I was part of the European field marketing team, and Niki was in corporate. We're in the same kind of division of Cisco. And of course, there's a massive time difference. So I get this call. I mean, there was no, I know I'm going to date myself here. There was no social media, right? There was no like looking up people on LinkedIn. And I get this call from this random person saying, hey, I need your list of attendees for sales kickoff. And I'm like, I'm going to be English here. I'm like, who the hell is this bird calling me up, asking me for this random thing at 6 p.m. on a Thursday? Now, what Cisco did have was an internal directory where you could look people up. So I'm like, who the hell is this? So I looked her up and she was so cute. I'm like, hey, how can I help? I immediately called her back. I'm like, I'd never met her before. But then then we became colleagues. We worked together for 2 or 3 years before I actually moved out to San Francisco with Cisco. I had a transfer with them. So, and then the relationship blossomed. But we were colleagues first, worked together, did a bunch of event type things together, and then the rest is history, right, Nick?
Yep.
Dayle, what was your role there at Cisco at that time?
Oh, I was in the European field marketing team.
Okay. Niki, now tell me any version or pieces that he forgot. And what was your role?
I was in services marketing. So I was in the corporate function of services marketing, and he was in the field. So I think at the time I was doing marketing communications, Marcom, if you remember that, way back when, and which is now more like integrated marketing, I think. But yeah, I had to call him, and I looked him up in the directory, like, oh, he's kind of cute. And and then we were friends for years, and we would always kind of like see each other and flirt, but there was no video. So it was always Meeting Place, press 1 but it was called Meeting Place. It was the audio solution they used for conferencing. And it was back when like Justin Timberlake and Britney were dating. And it we always like would flirt with each other like that. Yes.
I can't believe you're going to say that on the podcast. I mean, come on.
This is great.
Don't tell him
Dayle,
everything.
no censoring.
No, but it's funny because it's like we were doing these marketing offsites around the world, in Rome and Vancouver, and we'd really flirt with each other, and we didn't think people like knew it, and I was in my mid-20s, and apparently they did. They're like, duh.
Everyone knew it. Everyone knew
it's
it.
Funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And how long were you all at Cisco together? And then what did it look like when you both decided to branch off?
Yeah, I was there 12 years, and I don't know how long Dayle was there.
9 years total.
And then when he moved over, so his boss, Carl Mulema, brought him over. Carl became head of channel for services and moved to the States and brought over Dayle. He was one of his key hires. So once Dayle moved over to corporate services marketing, that's when I decided exit stage right. Like we can't be both in the same team. And that's when I moved to, analyst relations. I was trying to decide between public relations and analyst relations. And I really enjoyed working with like Gartners, the Forresters of the world, and moved over to analyst relations.
Yeah, I did 3 years in Europe for Cisco. And then, moving to another country and moving to corporate, actually, it felt like it was a completely different gig. It felt to me like a different company. It was still called Cisco, but it was a completely different company. So I stayed for another 6 years, did different things, moved into one of the business units, finished doing product marketing. And then, from that point, actually one of our great other CMO friends of ours, a guy called Ben Gibson, I worked for him at the last gig, and then he joined Aruba Networks, and then he brought me over to Aruba Networks. So eventually, we left and moved on from that. But it was a good run. I felt like someone described Cisco as as a young marketer. Someone described it as like it's actually like being in college. There's so many support pieces. You learn so much. there's so many other people around that you can call on. And then, when you get the opportunity, then you graduate and you leave Cisco, and then you go and try and do that in the next gig to try and, take all the things that you've learned from that time at Cisco. But it was a great grounding for me, for both of us.
And if you think about Cisco back in the early 2000s, like 2020, like that era, Cisco was to the tech industry, maybe what like Salesforce or Meta is today. I mean, it was networking. Like people were trying to figure out how to communicate via this thing called the network with routing and switching, and so all the talent was there, and we were young marketers and working with this amazing talent. Like we still keep in touch with like Blair Christie. You've probably know Blair Christie, Stephanie, right? She was CMO of Cisco, started her own company and blah, blah, blah. Melissa Selker, she was my direct boss. She went on to be the chief communications officer at Cisco, and then went over to LinkedIn, and she started out as brand and then their chief marketing officer most recently. So all these just like really inspiring people. Kara Wilson, Kara is 8-time CMO. Now she's no longer an operator, but sits on 10 boards. And she's someone I'm lucky enough to call a friend, and, she mentors me. Ben Gibson, so many people. I shouldn't list names because you're going to leave someone off.
You're going to miss someone off.
Yeah, but it was great. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So during this time period when you all were leaving Cisco, exploring other paths, I think, Dayle, you mentioned that someone told you at one point, like, you two are going out and exploring, probably a CMO role or these C-level roles, and one of you is going to have to take a back seat. And so just keep that in mind as you progress through your career. Tell me more about that, and then how you have thought about that throughout the years.
It's actually someone that told, and I'm not going to mention who it was, but it was someone told Niki, like, you both can have a career, but at some point when one of you reaches C-level or, that kind of level of responsibility, one of you is going to have to take a back seat. One of you is going to have to like step down, or, and it wasn't like one of you is going to have to be at home and be, work in the house, but it was both of you can't have these type of careers. And I think at the time, I was probably a little bit naive, but I'm like, screw that. There is no way we can have it all, those kind of things. And I think that has actually driven both of us. I think we're not competitive with each other, but we do, there is a little bit of that spirit within us where we're always trying to improve, and we push each other along. I think what we've realized though is there are times where one of the careers, for example, you can't both be looking for a new CMO gig at the same time. And then once you join a new company, you have this, you're trying to get to know the team. You're going out on listening tours and really understanding where the business is. You're meeting with customers. Like, it's very intense at the start until you get your grounding, your footing in that company. And what Niki and I think, have done a pretty good job with is, as one of us has been like, okay, I need to I need to look for something new. It's the right time. The other one has said, okay, then, I'm not going to look, or I'm going to take more of that back seat. And I think that's where we've never had the conversation. We've never had to have the conversation where one of us has said, look, we just can't do this. And now there's a lot of challenges with that. There's a lot of things we've had to do. There's things we have to do. The kids are amazingly flexible now in terms of, our daughter drives our son to school because that helps us if we have calls, and we've relied on friends and family, but we've never had to, at this point, say one of us has to take a step down. But we've kind of managed it through the last 10 or 15 years, and at least had the right conversations about who should be, like what I need to focus on. And that goes all the way down to, if it's, calendars, planning the calendar, not just the family calendar, but, we have to make sure that if one of us has a trip abroad for work, it's got to be on the home calendar. We got to talk about it 6 weeks ahead of time. We got to make sure we have coverage. Like,
the EA knows to put it on Dayle's calendar.
Yeah, it's like those are things you have to. It feels like there's a lot more planning ahead you have to do, but it's not perfect. But for the most part, I think we've done okay.
You know how creative projects usually means juggling 6 different tools and dozens of different version histories of the project? Well, this is exactly why Lightricks built LTX, the all-in-one creative suite for AI-driven video. It handles every phase from conception all the way to final delivery. And it's all powered by LTX2, their latest and greatest model. It creates 4K, synced audio and video with studio level detail. So no exporting, no waiting, just pure creation. Go try out LTX and see what it actually means to create at the speed of thought. Visit ltx.studio.
But you know what? I think what it's done, so Sheila Jordan, I think she's still at Honeywell. She was the CTO or CIO at Honeywell. I worked with her at Cisco, another great leader. She wrote a book called Working Moms Can Have It All. And it's so true. Like, you can have your career and help grow your team. And what it does, and if your husband's working as well, what it does is your kids become independent and they've had to learn to step up. And you take your same discipline that you do in coaching people for success at work and coaching your kids for success at home. And, hand in heart, like, I feel so blessed that the kids are just like good kids and they're independent and they understand consequences. And you put out, you get out what you put in, just all the lessons you learn at work. So luckily, neither one of us have had to really say, I can't become a chief marketing officer because I have to do X. And we make it work.
I also think it's a little bit, we're in tech marketing. It's very male orientated. And I've always been a massive advocate. There's a pressure on female leaders to, okay, well, if you have kids, you're the one that should be at home, and there's like this, I don't know if it's pressure or expectations, and I've never bought into that. If Niki had wanted to stay at home, great. But she didn't. And I feel like my job as, not just as a partner, but as a marketing leader who recognizes talent, you should go for it. You should have as much opportunity, and you should go for it. And if she ended up being, I would absolutely, if I would have had to, I would have stepped back if she'd have got to a position where we just couldn't make it work, because it shouldn't be gender related. It should just be, who's actually, bringing in the bacon, as it were.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love this conversation because I feel like this is something that a lot of people aren't talking about right now. But I mean, high performers attract high performers, and a lot of women are stepping into these leadership roles more than ever now than we've seen in the past. And so figuring out this balance, and I mean, I know I personally also have never thought, okay, I better take, a step back and just let my husband shine. And so it would have been hard for me to hear that and be like, yeah, you're just not my people, because I still have ambition and I don't want to dim my light. And I like this. Like, I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I'm choosing to. So I think it's fun seeing how you all have figured this out. And I think it also pulls at the power of community, something that we've lost, that back in the day, many people raised your children, not just 2, and you had family and friends. And it was a very normal thing. And hopefully there's a movement to getting back to that. I know you guys are a little past it now, but for people with young kids, like finding that community and also relying on people and knowing you don't have to do it all as parents by yourself.
And it's cyclical. I mean, it's ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes we can step in and help others. There's times where we're both at customer events. Mine's in London, his is in New York. And we're like, okay, friends, I need help. It takes a village.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everyone just steps up, which is awesome.
Yeah, there's a very talented marketer that works for me right now. And his wife is very successful in real estate. And he's been working very hard here for 4 or 5 years. And he is at the same, position, but he's conflicted about, should he be at home a little bit more? Again, his wife is very successful. And he actually, I've talked to him about how Niki and I have managed these situations. And I'm encouraging him. He's ready to be a CMO. He will be on one of these podcasts at some point. And he's ready to be a CMO, and I keep encouraging him. I think, now's the right time. There's the things you have to do, and there's always compromises. But you can you can have it all. You can make it work no matter who you are. And I think, you just have to, if you've got a good partner at home in your relationship, I think you can definitely make it work.
And I think there's times where, like, to your point, Dayle, about Tim, whoops, I don't know if I'm supposed
That's
to mention
fine.
his name.
His name's Tim White. He's very talented.
Yes,
He's going to be a good
very
CMO.
talented.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can also cut this out if you don't want that.
No, it's fine. He will appreciate that. He'll probably, I'm going to send that to a prospective employer.
But I was the same. Like, I first became a VP and the kids were 1 and 4. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I was switching companies. I went to Polycom. And what I learned is the best time to do it is when the kids are that young. And you can lean in a lot more, because guess what? They don't really miss you that much as long as they have toys and they have this and they have that and they have food. It's when they get a little bit older. I actually had to make a decision. My 2 companies ago, love the company, love the leader. I was there 3 years, built the team. And it was rinse and repeat, driving, a lot of pipeline, meeting with customers, just loved it. But I was traveling 80% of the time. And my daughter was going to be a sophomore in high school. And I'm like, wow, I have 3 more years left. And then she's going to go off to university. So I made the decision at that point, even though I love the team and we built so much together. My boss was amazing. Jonathan Cherky, Content Square, he's still amazing. I made the decision, time to leave. So I think it just depends, right? And I found a job closer to home, 5 minutes from home. So I could be there for the kids. But when they were young, 1 and 4, they didn't miss me if I was traveling to Paris and London and New York. They barely knew it, right? Or leaving to go to Cisco at 5:30 a.m. so I'd miss the traffic.
Now, I'm gonna add something to this though. Niki's that's very true, and I think as you get older now, in hindsight, I think you see it that way. What I will tell you is, at the time, going through that as a mother, it was really hard for her to be away, and this is where I also completely understand and appreciate why people don't want to work. And I'm not saying you should work or you shouldn't. It's their personal situation. But the wrench on Niki's heart when she had to leave and when she was away and when she came back. And again, I think there was a little bit more of that, I think, from a mother's side, because it's a little bit, because you carry the baby for all that period of time. There's a little bit of a different connection, but it was hard. And we had, we've had moments where she was traveling when they were younger, or even when you're at Content Square, where you just, you're upset because you miss the family so much and it's hard to be away. So there's no easy answer, and it is, it's all about compromise and keeping communications and so on. But it's, I respect everyone, whichever position. I'm not on here saying, no, everyone should just keep working. The kids will be fine. They're resilient. There's times. I think
the TLDR is do whatever you want, whatever feels good to you.
Yes, and precisely.
Yeah. Okay.
Precisely.
I love that. All right. So I want to get into some marketing and how we're thinking about marketing, and I'm going to position it going into 2026, because I just feel like we're entering into a very different era. Niki, you and I were talking, before Dayle hopped on, about geo and SEO and the changing world. And then Dayle, I'm sure you have a lot to share too, but I'd love to hear from each of you going into 2026. How are you thinking about, maybe Dayle, I'll start with you first. How are you thinking about marketing and like the work that you're doing at SnapLogic and just the environment? Like, what's changing? What's different? What are you experimenting with?
Well, I think the only constant in life is really change, and style. Style and constant is the only constant. I think the changes that we're seeing in general with how we operate on a daily basis is immense. In the marketing realm, I actually think a lot of marketers are more predominantly ahead of the innovation curve. And I don't mean we're the smartest people in the company to use some of this technology, but I do think, when the first LLMs came out, marketers were all over it. They were like, okay, I'm going to figure out, like, this is going to help me create better emails for the sales team. This is going to help me, create more blogs for, for my company that I put out, that I post on LinkedIn. So we're all over it. I don't think any of us truly anticipated just how big the impact could be, not just on the work that we do, but in the markets we serve, the customers that we're trying to reach and portray. So I think going into 2026, I think that it's still going to be very heavily about trying new things, try and be innovative. Look at every part of your business where you think you might be able to leverage some of the capabilities and the technology that's out there. I don't believe there is any part of our role in marketing that we can't be more efficient using some of the technology, AI or LLMs or agents and all those things. That being said, I'm also happy that some of the initial doom and gloom around we're all going to lose our jobs and so on, I think that there's still an element of, what's it going to mean for employment? But there's definitely, we use this term at SnapLogic, augmented intelligence. So it's not we're doing everything ourselves, and it's not we're being replaced by AI, but augmented intelligence is this connection. It's like, you'll hear the phrase human in the loop. It's this concept of we can be better because of it. So I think, what I'm tasking my team with is thinking about it that way. And I actually put a bounty. We did our last QBR, and I said to the team, I will give a bonus. It was $500. It's nominal, right? I will give everyone a $500 bonus if you can come to me and show I'm using this AI tool, or I'm using this LLM, or we're creating this agent. I'll give you $500 if you can show how it is materially impacting you to be, better, more efficient, more capable. What are you learning? That kind of thing. And everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. This is absolutely right. This is exactly so they're super excited. So I think going into 26 is really about, keep, I think, again, marketers, I feel like they try and be more innovative. I would say try new things, go out and, see what this new technology can do for you. I think you'll be surprised. And I don't think it's about replacing people. I think it's about, how can you be better, serve the customer better, serve your business, all those kind of things.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, before I move to Niki, I have two more questions to dig a little deeper. When you say that you want people to be experimenting, what's an experiment you're running right now that's a bit contrarian, where people are maybe pushing back and they're like, Dayle, that's not going to work. But you're like, more people should be trying this. This is awesome. And what is a project someone submitted to you that you were actually surprised? And you're like, that's pretty good.
It's actually the same thing. It's about how we support the sales development team. So I think SDR, right? These are the people that on the front line, they're trying to cold call. They're sending, these are the emails you get. And it's one of the hardest jobs. I think they also sit at the, they're not a silo, but they have one of the hardest jobs because they're supposed to work with AEs to generate interest, to open up accounts that they're targeting. They have to understand all the pieces of marketing and what's coming out and what they can leverage. And they're supposed to drive to shows, drive to some of the activities. So one of the things that with the SDRs team, they're building it's an agent that basically automates a lot of the account research that they do. So there are tools out there, I'm not going to name them, there are tools out there that help to enrich data, but the emphasis then is still on the SDR to take all that, build it into a plan, work with AEs, give that feedback to marketing. And I think that when we talked about is there something here that we could automate? I think there was a little bit of reticence thinking, no, you can't do that, because how are you to know it's the right information? How are you going to make sure that, it's the right target, the right persona? But, our EMEA SDR team working with them, they've built, literally, it's an agent that they've built using an LLM where they can type in who they're targeting, the company, potentially names, and then the agent goes and not only pulls all the research together, but aggregates it into what they're trying to do. So, for example, if we say it's, we're trying to sell a employee onboarding workflow, that sounds real. And that's what SnapLogic does, by the way. So I'm not going to go into details because it can get a little bit technical, but you can be very specific now with the company, the target. It will do research on if the company's a public company, we'll look at all their filings. It will tell you what their key, because they talk about their top 10 IT initiatives, right? It's like, it's all out there, but the amount of time it takes for someone to pull that together and create something that's more meaningful to a target, it's just taking forever. So now, and again, I think at the time when we were talking to them about this and how they were going to use it, it was like, no, it's not going to work. Some of it's proprietary. It can't go to all these places. And then, of course, you have all your internal data. You've got your, the internal tools you use. You've got your CRM. You've got all the Marketo that you've, outreach to them in the past. But it's, again, I think this was one of those where the initial idea was, yeah, that sounds like, I'm not sure that's going to work. And we're actually seeing a fair bit of success because of it. So I think there was, the contrarians were probably people who didn't think it would actually bring back anything meaningful. But the sales team are using it. And again, this is the human in the loop part. We're not automating all the outreach pieces. So it's not like now AI is doing all the outreach. It's still the SDR team. They're still making cold calls. But now when they make the call, if they get a person, if they have a response to an email, it's generally better targeted, and the response rates are going up significantly because of it.
Yep, man, epic. Okay, I want that for my own personal needs. I tried to build this myself one time in ChatGPT, and it was hard of trying to pull from the sources. So that's amazing. Okay, Niki, your turn. I want to hear. So that was Dayle talking about his, view of 2026 in the world of marketing. Now I want to hear from you. Like, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing right now?
As I do like org design, and I think of different roles that you hire immediately when you start a new gig to make sure you have the what you need. I always start it with kind of the same. It was like customer marketing, and that's still like the top one. I look at that because when you have the customer marketing role, you can help to retain the base and expand within the base and make sure they're happy in your just all the good stuff for the NRR. But the second one changed, and this was actually because content is so important when it comes to GEO. I never really, I think my second hire now, would be a super strong corporate marketing leader. And I know that's a kind of a cop out because corporate marketing is broad, but within corporate marketing, because when you look at GEO, because what happened to us is, we were SEO, marketing's contribution to pipeline increased 5% over 2 years, from a 36% to 41% of the mix, reduced the cost per opportunity, 19%, amazing. But all of a sudden, like what Dayle said, right, you have people starting to search and ask questions on these LLMs, and people are not even coming to your website anymore. It's no longer about the, all about this. And, but what drives it is the right content from trusted sources. It's no longer our own thought leadership. It's no longer our own blogs, but what are people doing and saying in Reddit? What about on YouTube? What about, it's so funny. Like, you used to always think about strong backlinks. This was like mid 2000. I remember when search started long, 2002, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. And, you're like, you have to have a strong backlink strategy from a trusted, authoritative person. And it seems like we're back to there. It's like focusing. So within corporate marketing, you have content. So your content strategy needs to completely change from what it was in the past. Before, it was like, who thinks content is king? Well, conversion's ace, and you need to make sure you have a gated page and it converts. Yep. You can't have gated pages anymore because you won't be found, right? Yep. And then, the Gartners, the Forresters, the IDCs, those industry analysts or even independents like Aragon Research, they are like a bunch of ex-Gartner alum, like 10 of them or something, right? So they have a high authority when it comes to LLMs and reasoning and who I've tested it, I've searched and different tools.
So wait, you've seen Gartner and those sources, because that's actually a question I've had is these more pay to play, which this is a very, maybe I might throw too much shade here, but like the pay to play sources that people are paying to get in, I wonder if they're eventually not going to be showing up in LLM results because they're like, I'd rather trust someone on Reddit talking about that's a great CRM than Gartner putting me in a magic quadrant thing.
Well, there's some pay to play influencers that, so it's funny. Industry analysts have been around for a very, very long time. And their revenue is like extremely well. Like Gartner has double-digit growth in all three revenue streams, which is consulting, events, and research. But then all of a sudden, influencer marketing became a thing where these independents who felt as though it was who has the most followers, but how do you know if they're real followers or if they get paid for it?
That too. Yes.
Right. So these kind of like talking heads, right? Squeaky, but they don't have a lot of, credibility because maybe they don't have the right insights. They're not talking to customers. They're not talking to vendors. Sheila McGee-Smith, she's an independent, but she's constantly talking to vendors. So when she's giving you her point of view, it's trusted. Maribel Lopez, she's ex-Forrester. She's independent, but she's always on Yahoo Finance or Bloomberg. So these LLMs are looking to scrape from the Bloombergs, the Yahoo Finance. So it's no longer, I think we're seeing a shift away from the independent talking heads without trusted authority, if you will.
Yeah.
Independents are still important as long as they have a platform that's trusted, like a Yahoo Finance or Bloomberg, or like a Sheila McGee-Smith. She's at Dreamforce this week. So, Salesforce will be talking about her. So that elevates her authority, right? Dayle wants to say something. I can tell.
No, I'll let you. I know you're doing your 2026 thing, but to answer your question about like Gartner Magic Quadrants, I think what Niki said is a prime example of if an analyst gets quoted on a Bloomberg, that now adds a level of credibility beyond what you would think what a Gartner Magic Quadrant would be. So I don't think and there's a lot of talk about this, like, is the analyst world, is it, a high, it's just a race to the bottom. I don't think it is, but I think what we've used in the past, like my MQs to make purchase decisions and to drive influence, I think the analysts will still potentially be important, but how they get to us and how they influence is going to slightly shift. I'm not saying I'm certainly not going to go on this podcast and say the Gartner MQ is dying because I have
dead.
a lot.
Now he's canceled. There goes Dayle. He's not a CMO anymore.
Yeah. Wait till I'm filling in the next Gartner RFI. My analysts go, remember this podcast? Well, I
Look
do.
At this.
No, but I think the analysts will be important. I think that, and they will start to find other ways to, maintain that relevancy. But I think that is another example of, as the world changes, so does how we see information, how we trying to put information out there, and how other people consume it. So anyway.
It's only because of what's feeding the LLMs, right? I mean, what feeds them and makes you discoverable is quality, not quantity. We moved to this world of quantity years ago where you had like all these talking heads and I have this many followers, but who cares? Are they even real? Right? I mean, God, so many folks, you wonder, okay, how do you have that many when you have like engagement of 3 on this post?
To me, that's going to be a world that dies very quickly of just, are these real or not? Because it is so obvious. It's such clear metrics of, oh my gosh, you have 10 billion followers and 1 like on your post. It's so obvious. I'm like, I think in the future, models will look at that and they'll be able to pull in, okay, let me look at the data of how this person's showing up online. And are they a trusted authority? Niki, like you said, like I'm sure if Bloomberg is featuring someone, they've probably done deep research. That person is probably a good thought leader versus someone on LinkedIn, saying they're, let's just say, a CEO of some random company, and then they have tons of followers, but no engagement and no one really knows them. Like, I think that world will be gone very quickly because of how easy it is to analyze things and pull data in and pull metrics on people.
Yeah. And it comes to the quality. I mean, it's in the past it was subjective. It's like, ooh, who's quality and who's not? Like there's another analyst, Zias Kravala, he came from Yankee Group. And then when John Chambers was leaving Cisco, I mean, John, we all know John. He's like of his era, he was like what Mark Benioff is. And he left Zias a voicemail saying, thank you for all these years of guidance and advice. But that's like behind the scenes. He played it for me. Zias did. But, people would say, how much value does he bring? Because it was more subjective. But now with the LLMs, you could do a search and see, because he's quoted in these earned media publications, often he's quoted high value, right? So I think if the North Star is growth, and that's usually always my North Star, like what will help a company grow, you have to figure out the mix. I always say, always, marketing is definitely like you're a chef, you're Thomas Keller, or who's the guy you like, Dayle? The English, Jamie Oliver. You open up your fridge and you're like, okay, what do I have today? Right. And it's a mix of things. It's not just one thing. So to achieve that North Star of growth, you always have to keep your pulse on what is now driving demand. Things have changed. It's content. It's industry analysts with high credibility or influence, like independents with high credibility. I never thought about it, Stephanie, until I listened to your top 5 thing, the podcast. If you got whoever's listening, go listen to it. I spent like an hour yesterday listening to it. But it's like people on Reddit, and then you need the tools to be able to, like, as a CMO, we've always had to cobble together. You're like, okay, what is the industry analyst sentiment? What's the financial analyst sentiment? I would go to Blue Shirt Group. What is our channel partner sentiment? What is the earned media? And I would have to then give it to my ops person. They would create a Domo dashboard. But there are other tools out there that I've just discovered. There's other tools out there that will pull it all together for you, like Brandwatch being one of them, where you can actually see everything. Super cool. So I think my prediction for 2026, the org chart will change a bit. Different things will be higher importance. Definitely customer marketing, always my first hire, because that's retention within the base and helping them to be super satisfied with your solution. But number 2, corporate marketing, because of the AR, PR, and content. And then finally, demand gen, always still. Demand gen and operations. Operations, that's a whole nother webinar.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Dale's looking a little antsy over there. Is there anything that you heard that you're not sure about?
Are you getting bored with me, Dayle, my voice? Because I'm your wife?
I hear this every day at 5 p.m. over our chicken and sweet potatoes.
If she talks to me one more time about GEO, no. Look, I think this is where, again, I think what Niki just highlighted in the hires that, she would focus on. If you do that, you can't go too far wrong. I think the blessing and the curse of being in this type of leadership position for this type of function is I don't think you're ever really comfortable with your marketing strategy ever. Yeah, I think, and I used to talk about, like, it's like being in the space shuttle or an airplane. There's so many buttons and knobs and dials and levers. And I think the big challenge to be in marketing is you're constantly moving things around. You've got to look at all of them at once. And, something that worked 6 months ago, now that's not working anymore. And you've got to really look at it. I think, whilst I think being an SDR is one of the hardest jobs in the enterprise, as a marketing leader, the amount of things you have to be responsible for and really think about. You've got to look at brand and reputation. You've got to look at now these new tools and how, if SEO is dropping, how do we start appealing to LLMs? You've got to help on customer retention and customer events and webinars. And do you run a community, and what's your social media strategy, and which digital channels are working? And by the way, did you talk to the analyst again last month? Like,
you have to be right brain and left brain at the same time.
The amount of functions and the difference in thinking, I think, has always been a challenge for marketing. I do believe, again, that some of these tools that we have now, some of the things that are coming, are going to help us spend less time pulling in the information, so we can actually do more on the insights and action. I mean, I don't need another dashboard. And I think you're seeing a lot of companies out there that they're not struggling, but like if you're a company that just basically just does dashboards, guess what? No one needs any more of that. What they need is some real insights and then how to take action.
Well, if your dashboard, it could be agentic, right? And if it can take action, if you set it up and you program it with the what if statements, if someone says this, respond like this from a brand perspective. And then if you have trust and governance to make sure that it's actually, adhering to the context that you put in, Dayle, then it could be good to have that dashboard.
I agree. But what you're talking about is building an agent on top of a dashboard. If you're a dashboard company, and I'm not going to mention them, but like if that's what you do, like you better have some kind of
they have to take action.
They have to have something now that that is going to help people take action, because just the passive looking at things,
sure,
those days are gone. Those companies won't exist.
That's a theme that I've heard throughout the show but it's interesting because I think CMOs are on different sides. Some of them are just more metrics, more dashboards. Like now we have so much more data, it's exciting. Then I fall into, I really just like to trust my intuition and get into my customer's head and meet them and feel them and then build something great. And then, you've got Niki over here talking about agentic dashboards and taking actions. And I wonder, what the right call is, knowing that we will have more data than ever. But then, Dayle, like you said, at a certain point, you just have so many numbers in front of you. It's probably maybe less helpful unless you've built out rules to say, once you see all these 20 things happening, then yes, move forward. But until then, it's an interesting balance thinking about these worlds. Have you ever wished that your entire video production workflow lived in one place? Well, you're in luck, because that is LTX, the creative suite that was built by Lightricks, all for AI video production. It takes you from idea to final 4K video, all in one workspace. And under the hood, you've got LTX2, the next generation creative engine, powering native 4K, synchronized audio, and cinematic quality fast. So if you make content professionally, this isn't just another tool. This is your new creative home. Go explore it at ltx.studio.
I think part of the marketer's dilemma is we're held accountable to many things, and because marketing, everyone thinks they can do it because it's like, oh, it's just how you look, or it's just a thing that you say. I think the marketers that I've talked to, and there's some really talented marketers out there that are doing some great work on using data, but we feel, I think as a marketer, if you have access to data, it helps to not justify what you're doing, but I feel like it's one of those roles where you get the authority and respect if you use the data behind the scenes, which is why I think we're always trying to look at it. Because I feel like it's one of those roles we're always questioned on why we made a decision. And I feel like that's why data is super important. I know it is to Niki, it is to me, because you have to say, with the data I have at the moment, I made this decision. Did it turn out to be right? We'll see. We can change the strategy. But it's like, if sales go into a deal and they pitch something, no one says, well, why did you pitch it? They don't have to prove the data behind that. They just say, well, the customer said this, so I did it this way. It's not one of those roles that you have to show all these little minutia pieces of data. That's why you made this decision. So I just feel like you get the authority and respect in this role if you build a lot of this strategy based on the data.
Well, it's more than just why did you make the decision, but understanding all of the impacts to move the customer through the journey, like all the touch points. Like I really, really, really wish, and Stephanie, if you know of one, let me know, but like an amazing multi-touch campaign attribution. There's first touch, there's last touch. And I mean, that's why I said like the third hire would be.
No one can see him right now hanging himself.
Good.
Carry on, Niki. Just a little dramatic over there.
Like the third hire would be the operations, because there's so much data now. And if your North Star is growth, like I always say, without data, it's just another opinion. And I learned that at Content Square because they're an analytics company. So it was all about data. And you can't argue data, but it also guides you of where to invest, where to double down, triple down, quadruple down, right? Where to pull back from. I love data.
Yeah. No, but that's it.
I
But
like the differences here, by the way. This is awesome.
Yeah. But you just prove the point. It's like you have the data, right? And if you have that, you can make the right decisions, whether you're building an agent to take some action based on the data that it sees, or you're still analyzing it. Again, it's still amazing to me. Sometimes you talk to certain groups of marketers and they're not looking at all the data points to make decisions. And it's like, they struggle in their role, or they struggle having the right conversation, having a seat at the table with the CEO, because they're not using data, and everyone has to.
And even with brand, like brand used to be this squishy, soft thing. People are like, how do you measure it? I had a CEO that was super numeric. His name is Peter Leave. And if there was one wrong data point on a slide of like 1,000 numbers, he could figure it out. So I learned early on, like, you have to be able to measure everything. So like everything you can be able to measure, as long as that was a mistake I made one time. I didn't do before and after, where I didn't measure the perception like before the campaign, and then you put it in market and see where it performed a quarter, 6 months, 3 quarters. So then I didn't have to compare. I'll never do that again. But you can measure everything, whether or not it's AIDA awareness, unaided awareness, what you think you're known for. Then you take that and you're like, okay, we thought we were known for X, but we're not. Ease of use, let's say. That was one at Polycom. We weren't known for that according to our ICP in our top verticals. So we had to adjust, right? So yeah, data is great because it gives you a ton of information to be able to do something with.
All right, so I want to pull in my producer, Matt. He's been listening to the conversation the whole time, and he has some burning questions that he wants to ask. Matt, take it away.
Burning questions.
Yeah.
So, Dayle, you mentioned going into 2026, marketers, the importance of technology. Mm-hmm. And are there any specific tools that you would recommend for a marketer that they need to add to their tech stack now to make sure that they're successful going into 2026, maybe outside of necessarily using LLMs and that whole world, but any specific tools that you would drill down on?
Yeah, there's something that, Niki said around the hire that she had that she would focus on. And this is around the customer marketing. And I feel like whilst we all, as marketers, we all talk about understanding the customer journey, I feel like there isn't something out there that really gets you that close to the customers that is, tool-based. And what I mean by that is, I think the biggest oxymoron in tech is when Salesforce launched Customer 360. I'm sorry, but CRM is not Customer 360. I cannot find anything as useful in my Salesforce, right? And that's a little bit of an exaggeration. But customer, they just launched, they just launched Agentforce 360, and like Benioff's the best marketer out there, hands down. But the whole point of really understanding the customer and the customer journey, as Niki said, it's crucial. Technology-wise, I think that, I was at a company called Lithium, had one of the best experiences of my life. It was actually working for a woman called Katie Kime. She was the best CMO that I worked for, led with such heart, but also very creative and so on. And this company was a community software originally, and it was forum based, ideation, Q&A, those kind of things. And I think that in 2026, and we actually have one of a forum based community, and I hate to say it, but I think that technology, that platform is dead.
Why? So like you said that, and
restate that.
Yeah.
Restate that in a sentence, Dayle, just so we can use that as a clip of like community forums are dead. And just like get it.
Okay.
Aggressive.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not, I'm sure if someone listens to this, they're going to be like, oh, Dayle's so dramatic with that. I honestly believe that and I was at a company for 5 years that did this, the forum-based community platforms are dead. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. And we are going to migrate from our forum-based community platform to something new. And I'll tell you why it's, Niki, to your question, I'll tell you why it's dead. I think because in the past, you used to have, your company would engage in these forums. Customers would answer questions. Customers would ask questions. People would come on and provide answers, and then another expert, someone from the industry may weigh in. But that whole process could take a day, 2 days for you to get an answer to your question. Who out there now is waiting a day to get an answer to a question? And I just don't think people want to hang around that long. Now, I'm not saying LLM search is the be all and end all, because we know there's some hallucinations and so on. So I'm not saying that is the pure answer. But what we're looking at here, and what we're going to launch probably end of this year into next year, is a front end to a community that will probably be based more on a Slack type community.
I was about to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I know everyone doesn't use Slack, and I'm not again saying everyone should go out and buy it, but if you can have the similar interface that you expect from a community, which is, trying to keep a track of Slack is a nightmare too, by the way. How many, red lights do I have pop up? But if you can have if you can put a front facade on it, and actually don't remember the name of the company, but my customer marketing person is looking at this. You can put a facade on it, but behind the scenes, it's basically a Slack community. And it's a way that you can tag people in your company, and they're going to get immediate responses. Because we're all on that tool every day. We're not logging into a separate community. You can also have external communities where you invite customers to be part of it. I have no clue if this is actually going to be a better experience, but I do know the thing that we hear from customers is they don't want to wait. If you can't answer, if you don't have like 100 people like looking at those questions and answering them, they're going to go to another source. And it pains me because I did 5 years at this company and I loved this thing, but it's like things have changed.
It's not dead, right? It's just evolving, right?
Community is not dead.
Because they still want, like, our cab members at my last company, we used Slack, and they loved it because they knew each other. They knew each other's birthdays and what they struggled with and anniversaries. And they loved getting ideas from their peers versus just this LLM. And then you're like, is it hallucinating? We're still, struggling with that. So it's community itself is not dead, just the traditional sense of.
But the forum type software and platform will not exist in its current shape or form. I don't think anyone's out there asking those questions about forums.
About Jive.
You think of like Adobe.
Yeah.
And you always go there and find a question and there's no answer. And you're like, what the? I just spent 5 minutes looking for my answer, and it said it had an answer, and everyone actually was on the forum saying they all didn't know. And they were all also looking for an answer. I'm like, oh, right. That was
there
just.
You go.
Thanks, Adobe.
Exactly.
Oh, man. All right, Matt, what else you got for us?
Yeah. Okay. So.
Send something Niki's way.
Okay. Yes. So, Niki, one of you mentioned early on that you guys are not competitive with each other in your marketing strategies. But has there been a time, I see. Yeah, Dale's ready. Has there been a time where one of you caused the other to pivot what they originally thought was going to work, or an idea they had, and then Niki, you came in and said, I think you might be looking at this the wrong way, Dayle, or be approaching this in the wrong way. What if you tried this?
The only thing that comes to mind, so Dayle, I definitely tapped into him for his like creative sensibility, and what will resonate with audiences. He has always said, and am I allowed to share this, Dayle? If he wasn't a marketer, if he wasn't a marketer, he would have went to school to become like a psychiatrist or something, and understanding.
I didn't know where you were going to go there. So yes, you could share that.
Because he really understands. He's passionate about people and the message resonating with the audience. So I tend to run things by him that like when you work with an agency and you're looking to reposition a company, you have to develop what is your point of view? What is your point of view based as for that company, based off of the competitors out there and how it stands out and is differentiated? And usually an agency worth their salt will give you a few options. I use someone called John McNeil Studios, JMS, out of Emeryville. They're awesome. They're like ex McCann, Ogilvy, super, and they come out with great ideas. And I will always put it in front of Dayle and see what he thinks. So at Content Square, there was two I was torn between. One was do better, and the whole notion of you could do better if you had the insights and the analytics of people moving on your website, your mobile app, because Content Square is a digital experience analytics company. So behind every mouse move and click is someone trying to achieve something. And the other one was more human analytics, more human understanding. I kind of like the notion of do better because it's like we can help them be better and do better, right? Coming from that. And then Dayle gave me his perspective of, well, it almost, and it could be because he's British too, but it feels like you're saying you do better, or you know what I mean? Maybe because we're married or something. I don't know. But he got me to think.
He's like, is this a personal attack?
Exactly.
Is this about our laundry earlier?
She's constantly telling me, Dayle, do better. Do better. Do more chores.
Do someone else's best, Dayle, not your best. Someone else's best.
That's usually him with me with the dishwasher. Like, that's another story, but he doesn't
Don't get on the dishwasher.
Like, no one can load the dishwasher well. He's going to start saying, do better. He's going to say that in the kitchen out to all of us.
No, I saw a meme one online, and it's like, there's two people in a house. There's a person that loads the dishwasher like a Swedish architect, and there's someone that loads it like a drunken raccoon. You can guess which one I am. I'm definitely the architect. Everything has to look nice. So
I guess I'm the raccoon. Okay, I know it all
Yes,
for
you are.
Same.
Same.
Well,
and then, have you guys ever seen the show Parks and Rec?
A long time ago, yeah.
Okay, so Leslie and her husband Ben, they work together in Parks and Rec department, and there's an episode where they're arguing about a particular topic, and they have to make, like, once we get on the sidewalk of work, the work conversation ends, and then we're at home. And then they do the same thing when they go back to work. Have you guys ever been in that situation where, okay, we're at home now, let's stop talking about marketing?
Probably if we were carpooling. I would. Okay. Don't you think, Dayle? If we're carpooling home and then we have to pivot to talk about kids and their schedule?
Don't know if we ever really stop talking about it. I mean, we don't talk about it 24/7. There are other priorities we have in our lives.
Sure.
But again, I think the nature of our work, the nature of particularly what happened on COVID, where people are now, working from home a lot. I mean, I personally, and I think it's the same with Niki, I don't think I ever shut off. Yeah. And I think actually having another marketer in the house can sometimes be harder, because then I'm like, if I have something in my brain, I will ask her. So I think when we actually take vacations, we then try and have some downtime. But even that, I don't think we've taken a vacation in the last 10 years where one of us didn't have a board call or a QBR deck due, or we had to be something. I don't.
Wow.
So I don't think again, it's not 24/7 we talk about it, but I don't think either of us are actually ever shut off from the role.
And I'm not disciplined enough. Like on vacation, so I just love work. I really do. I love building my teams. I love helping them achieve all they can be. I love focusing on the customer and helping them be successful. So it's really hard to shut off. Really hard. I always tell Dayle, I said, we need to go on a vacation where there's no Wi-Fi. Let's go camping or something.
Which I'm like, I'm not going camping.
He's
Anyone
British.
that knows me knew.
Only because when he used to go camping when he was young, it was wet and cold. I want to take him camping in a beautiful beach or something, but he won't go.
No.
Okay, I'm conscious of our time, but I also know we didn't finish the story of the do better part.
So Dayle got me to think differently about what that means, what it would mean to the audience, which I didn't even think about. And I was looking at it of, okay, you can give them all the insights and information to enable them to be better. So we did pivot and we moved and we ended up with more human understanding, more human analytics. One platform can tell you the difference, Content Square. And it worked well. We had because I made the mistake in the past of not measuring pre, definitely did some measurement pre and understood, the awareness, aided awareness, unaided, what we were known for, all the different measures. It's after a quarter, I had this slide. It's Denise Pearson helped me with it. How this campaign would take Content Square to the bank was the title of it, because I had to present it to the board where we had 6th Street, we had SoftBank on the board, and we had 4 times more traffic. I know traffic can be a vanity metric, but then it's like engagement, conversion. We had all these metrics. And when you come down to true conversion, and then what turned into pipeline, it was a pretty good story. So I'm happy I listened to you, Dayle. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very cool.
I have some uses other than loading the dishwasher properly. So, look, we're not competitive. I mean, when I mentioned that earlier, I was really talking about in our careers, we're not competitive. One of us generally doesn't say, I'm more important, because, to be fair, Niki's worked at much bigger companies and mine are smaller. But again, it doesn't mean one's more important than the other. But I will say we do have, when we're talking about the campaigns that we run, as Niki talked about, and the results, we do share those. And there was probably a little bit in us where if one of us has had a really successful event, we're supportive. But then I think that also, if anything, it kind of spurs us along to kind of also
say,
on our side.
How did you do it?
Well, yeah. If I know she's had a successful campaign or an event or something, that definitely the competitive spirit is not me against her. It's me to try and be better and use some of the things that she's done and learn. So I want to achieve more and then kind of, share that with her. I think one of the other things that pops to mind when we talk about giving each other guidance and advice, and this is sometimes hard. It's hard for me anyway. Niki can argue whether it's hard for her. There's often times where if something hasn't gone right, or we're angry about something, or we're disagreeing with someone else in our organization, it could be on our team, it could be me getting annoyed with our CEO or something like that. There are often times where I think if I approach this with her, I say it to Niki and tell her what's going on, or she overhears potentially one side of the conversation, or, she's walking past the office where we are and she can kind of hear it. There are times where she will find me after that call or give me that advice. It's like, you're overreacting. I didn't hear what you heard. This is what I heard. He's actually trying to give you the right advice. They're not arguing with you.
I don't say it that way. I'm a little more empathetic.
You do. No, you do. No, but you're okay. Maybe you sound a little bit more empathetic.
I like it that way. That would work for me.
What I hear is, Dayle, you being stupid.
That's what he hears, and that's not it at all.
That's what translates to me.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes, again, this is holding us accountable in our role, but sometimes that's really hard to hear. It always is right. And I think as a couple, when you're in the same house, I know I've had situations where she's given me that advice and I've been like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know what I'm dealing with or whatever. And I guarantee by the end of the day or the next morning, I'll be like, hey, by the way, you were totally right. It's just sometimes you have that visceral reaction of she doesn't know what I'm going through, right? And I think I value it. I value that honest feedback and I value that relationship probably, just as much as being a partner in life. But sometimes hearing that is really tough, but it's always right. And I think because of her unique situation, because we are in a similar role, I can't really argue that she did she doesn't know what she's talking about. We have the same role. So I know she's coming from A, position of empathy, B, of experience, and she probably loves me too. So, you put those three things together, whilst sometimes I don't react in the right way, I know, I generally come around. And I think, I wouldn't say, Matt, it's not competitive as such, but that's kind of sometimes where we have a disagreement, but it's not like, well, why did you, this PR is rubbish. Why did you send that out? But it's usually just giving each other advice on how we handle situations that we sometimes have. We're a bit prickly.
Yeah. That's awesome. What a great resource that must be. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So y'all were not prepared for this, but I'm about to take you into a very different style of a lightning round because I normally don't have two. Normally I have one, but I don't want you both talking at the same time. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then you write down the quick answer. It should be a 1 or 2 word answer on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And then when I say go, you hold it up, and we see what you both said.
Okay. I feel like there was a TV show that was, you have to try and guess what the other's thinking. Great. Go for it.
Yep. All right. First one, which one gets more budget next year? Brand building or demand? And when I say demand gen type of. And I'll tell you when to go. And I'll read it so people can, whoever's not looking at the YouTube video can also know what's happening. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
What did you write?
All right, Niki's demand. And hold on.
What are you, Dayle?
Demand gen.
Demand. But yeah, I see.
Demand gen.
Both of you. Okay. Next up, when things break, do you fix the process or fix the people?
Are you writing an essay?
You all ready?
Yes.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Let's see.
I say process for to understand the why.
Show me.
Yep. And Dayle's process too.
Okay.
And Dayle's process.
Niki's over here
too.
adding like extra details.
Yeah. Niki's giving you a full out plan.
It's important to understand the why. So sometimes it's process, you understand the why, and it's not people related, right? I always try to coach for success. That's huge for me, coaching for success. But then once you realize they can't get there, then it's better to exit, and both are happier later on.
I have this philosophy. I think people in a role generally fail for, it's usually a couple of reasons. One is they don't have the right skill set. It's a mismatch of skill set. They may not have the right experience or something like that. They just don't know who to go to or whatever. Second one is there's something broken in the process. And the third one is they're just not working hard enough, or they just don't want to be there. It's rarely the third one. There are times when it's that and you have to make a change to the team, but it's usually a skill set or a process thing.
Yeah, and part of the process is expectations, understanding what the North Star is. If people understand what success looks like, most people will achieve that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, next up. What is a marketing term that should die in 2026? A word, a KPI. This came from, I was in studio with Nick Tran the other day, who was super fun, if y'all have heard of him. And he listed like 15 words that should die. I'm like, whoa. So anyways, now I'm adding it to my question list.
Hang on. I got to get this right.
I have a good one.
I like how seriously you're taking it. This is good, Dayle.
I have a few.
Okay, I like a few. All right, if you have a couple, Dayle, you can put a couple too. Now it's a competition. Don't just bring one to the table.
Okay.
I have a few, honey.
I'm sure you do. Overachiever. All right. Yeah.
Are we ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Go. That's yours. All right, go for it. And then read them off if you want. Niki,
Mine
what
is first touch, last touch, and also CMO.
Oh my gosh, someone just said this.
Yeah, someone did?
Okay.
Because I feel like the role we're in, I think I told you this, Stephanie, my prediction is the CMO and the Chief Customer Officer will become one in the next 3 to 5 years, because if you're doing your job very well, it's about always focusing on the customer and their success. How you achieve it is everything else. But we do more than just market. We bring insights in to inform the product. We bring insights in to inform acquisition strategy. This was Cisco. Constant insights for John Chambers and his team to inform acquisitions or stop acquisitions. We employee morale, right? And your brand ambassadors, the employees, make them feel good and get them pumped. Like, we service almost every single function within the field. We have to make them successful to achieve their targets. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I like this. Niki, you should check out my post on LinkedIn I just wrote about this that kind of talks about this. But we were trying to figure out what term should be used because CMO, that was one of the words that a previous guest just said should die, the word CMO. So
I think Chief Customer Officer, I think it should combine into one, because at the end of the day, everyone's job in an organization should be helping our customers succeed. Marketing is not just about, acquisition, but it should be about retention and expansion. And by the way, if you do that, they're going to tell others in their communities, in their Reddits, in their wherever they are, their forums, their Facebook forum on IT people, right? Stephanie, I heard you talking about that. So I think it will become a win-win.
Yep, I love it.
I agree with everything you said around what the head of marketing or this function should focus on. I'm just a little bit more of, I've seen this over the last 10 years, chief market officer, chief growth officer. Like they've created titles to try and capture more than what people understand as marketing. I think in principle, it doesn't really, it could be chief customer officer, it could be anything. Like I think as an operator, exactly what you said, Niki, is if you focus on the customer side, it doesn't matter what you call the role. I think if you have that understanding with the rest of the leaders in the company, I think you'll be successful regardless of what it's called.
But you know what I don't like? I don't like the ING. How come marketing has a ING? Like you were just talking, chief market officer. We don't see chief revenuing officer,
chief selling,
right?
Selling officer,
chief. I mean, right? So it's like it almost like makes marketing seem like it's like activities that we're doing versus the impacts that you're driving for the organization based off the insights you have from your customers, your partners, your industry analysts, the insights from the website, how people are engaging, or the forums, LLMs, etc.
I love it. All right, Dayle, you're up.
Well, I only had one, but it kind of comes
Okay,
back to the first one that Niki had, which was like first touch, last touch. I had influence. So influence, because there's this, it kind of comes, attribution, influence and attribution. The whole concept, you could say first touch, last touch. You can say multi-touch. What I think people have to recognize is that, if you're in this type of role, you are touching so many pieces of the customer journey and the acquisition funnel and how you help sales. Like, it's not about, we can just all agree and assume that you're going to, as a marketing leader, you're going to have influence and you're going to drive attribution. But it's how you delivering value to the business. It's exactly what Niki talked about understanding the customer journey, or it's working closer with the sales team to be more successful. So this whole concept, and it's really tough in marketing. You're always trying to point to, I did this, I put this out, and we got to these kind of results in the funnel and so on. But this whole area of like we touch all pieces of that journey. So let's not worry about showing specific results for one specific thing. Let's show the broader impact across the business. Let's show all the places we were able to engage with customers and kind of, almost, regardless of the title, up-level the role so people understand that is a real critical piece across the business. It's not less important than the product development, organization. It's not less important than sales. It's because we do have so many touch points. So influence and attribution, let's get rid of that.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have a daughter who is, on her way to college earlier in the episode. And so if she were to ask you both right now what you would think if she was planning to become a CMO, or that was her career path, what would you both say? And you can write it down and then you can also explain it too. But I'd love to, think about it yourself.
If she wanted to become a CMO, well, that would have changed because she usually says she wants to become the president of the United States, but she hopes there's a female president before her, is what she always says. But yeah, I would probably dissuade her. And I mean, I love marketing, but I would suggest she becomes like a chief customer. But see, I believe a chief marketing and a chief customer officer will become one. And I think they should. I I would probably have her continue to focus on business, but stay really, really close to the customer, and help their success. And she doesn't need to major in poli-sci or anything. I mean, we have politicians who've been actors, who've been on TV shows, blah, blah, blah.
You can do anything you want nowadays.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
No.
And she can still drive change. Go Sophia Hall.
Yeah.
But I don't think she should do it as a marketing. She's very strong and she's driven. And so I could see her driving change but she has a big heart. So helping customers. That's what I would say. I would say probably don't get into marketing, but be a chief customer officer.
I think, look, again, Niki mentioned this earlier. I got into marketing, I think, ultimately because it was either, psychology or marketing. And I think, or business. And then I got into marketing because it's the psychology of buying behavior. So I think for me, it was right. But I think, as we've talked about on this podcast, there's so many elements that you have to understand. I'm not whining now as like poor marketing leaders, right? I'm not saying that, but I feel like if you're going to go into a business role, if she still wanted to go into business, the people that I think it's a tough job, but I think get the most respect. If you're a sales leader, if you're selling, that's where the credit and the kudos really comes. I worked at Oracle years ago, and Larry Ellison, who's an amazing, technologist, stood on stage and said, "You're either building product or you're selling it. Everything else is overhead. So I don't care whether you're here or not." Right? So that kind of like, oh shit, I'm in marketing. I guess I'm screwed. No, but it's like I would advise her if she was going to go into this, either do something like, if you think you can be a marketer or a salesperson across any company. But I think the kudos, like if you close those big deals and you're good at it, I think you get a significant amount of credit and impact if you're in that sales type of role. And I know it's not for everyone. And again, I don't want to be a salesperson, but that's what if she really wanted to go into business. And then the other thing is, Niki's talked about this before, it's like there's so many people who think they can do your job. And I feel like, be an entrepreneur, go and start your own company, build your own company. You can still do some of that marketing thing, but then you can also do some of the product and some of the sales and maybe some of the legal and actually be a leader, be your own boss. I think, Niki, you've always talked to her about that.
Yeah, I think a path like the CMO, because you touch so many aspects of the business, operations and creative and the employees, it's almost like your next step is CEO. Like one day in life, I would love to be a CEO, whether or not it's like a founder CEO or, but there is one place it would be fun to be a marketer, and that's at Salesforce, because Mark Benioff is like the best marketer. Like you talked about Dayle earlier. So if she did want to go into marketing, I would say do it at Salesforce.
Yeah. Learn a lot.
Well, there you go. I like it. Okay. Well, Niki, Dayle, this was so fun. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Playing all the games with me, doing all the things I wanted. This is really fun. So until next time, where can people find you? Guide people to connect with you if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Same with you, Dayle, right?
Yeah, and we, I have a podcast. It wasn't as much fun as doing this with Niki, but I have to say that because otherwise she'll shout at me when I get home today. No, but this was a lot of fun. It's again, I think there's a level of respect we have for each other. And I think we've always been learning from each other. So it's nice to just get on these, and we realize that maybe we do like each other, not just as husband and wife, but actually as marketing leaders too. So it's good to reaffirm that.
Now we know.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yes.
This episode proved it. That's what I was aiming for. There we go. All right. Thank y'all.